You call that radio? You call that radio TV? No. You call that radio TV?
We are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale.
You call that radio?
Jacking on my heels, out of sight. Rust off a park garage. I kept on ties. 5, 4, 3, 2.
It is the Govanhill International Festival and Carnival, which begins tomorrow. So it says there, but actually begins today. It begins live right now on You Call That Radio. And it's not even a guest tonight. I consider him more a co-host to guide me through it. Festival director of the Govanhill Festival. You might recognise him from previous shows. He's been a guest, also a grumpy judge in the past as well. It's the one and only Jim Monaghan. How you doing, mate?
Hey, Mark. How's it going?
I'm good,
That's
man.
a lovely new intro.
Did you like that? Yeah, I just made a wee countdown thing just to give me 60 seconds to hit the share button. So
Good.
Hopefully we've got some people tuned in. And Jim, tell me about the Govanhill Festival and Carnival.
Govanhill Festival and Carnival. It's there's no carnival this year. I have to say that. It's still called that, but because of COVID restrictions and everything, we won't be having the carnival because we can't really control the amount of people that join in when we're around the streets. But it started. This is our 4th one, but it actually started 4 years ago. There was the year before it started, we had this little gig at the Baths, which we called Govanhill International Music Festival, because we had different kinds of acts with different styles of music. We had Big Taj was on at it, and he was working with young Slovakian rappers at the time. They were on. We had Junkman's Choir, Ikarika Jal, who were a Roma band, and Doll Beats, who were a Pakistani drum band. And we put them on, and we thought, well, next year let's do this a bit bigger. And the following year, the first real one with the first carnival and all that, 2017, was the 40th anniversary of Rock Against Racism. And so we started sounding out through Craig Griffin and others, like what bands could we get that played in the original Rock Against Racism gigs? And I'd mentioned 3 bands to him that were my favourite reggae bands at the time: Aswad, Misty and Roots, and Black Roots. And so he put the feelers out, and we got all 3 of them to come to Govanhill, went to the Queen's Park bandstand. And we got Jeremy Corbyn to come up and open it. And alongside it, we had a carnival, a parade with people dressing up and making banners and all that stuff. That Nicola Sturgeon opened that one as well. So we'd Sturgeon and Corbyn and all these sort of famous bands.
And Aswad. That's
Aswad, yeah.
So you've got Sturgeon, Corbyn, and Aswad.
And Misty and Roots, it was fantastic. Aswad were pretty crap, by the way. It was a shame. At Misty and Roots were there with a full horn section and all that. Totally blew them off the stage. By the time Aswad came on, Aswad hadn't been playing the reggae circuit as much. They've been playing the kind of 80s circuit, the pop circuit. So I think they forgot just like how good proper roots reggae was today. They didn't play that long. They were a bit of a disappointment, but it was a brilliant night. And then each year we've just added little bits to it, bit by bit by bit, a book festival, a film festival, and every year it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the parade's the big focus normally. So this year it's a lot scaled down quite a bit, but we thought it important to keep it going, so that at least there's a kind of momentum there that we do have a festival. Most of the stuff's online. There'd be some children's events up in the park that are socially distanced and all that stuff, but so it's been going. This is the 4th year of the sort of the big one, the Carnival Festival. And we've had some brilliant exhibitions and history walks and talks, and book talks and gigs and all sorts of things. So we're doing it again for the fourth time, and really looking forward to it. It's a really interesting lineup. We've got some of the people that are doing some of the things going to be coming on tonight and joining us and telling us a bit about it.
Well, that's it, Jim. You've done a great job of getting some brilliant guests on tonight's show who are going to tell us a little bit about what they do. And if people are wanting to tune into this festival in general after tonight, where is it going to be? Is there a Facebook page where it keeps all the information?
So there's a Facebook page, Govanhill International Festival and Carnival. Sometimes we like to call the carnival Scotting Hill because it's on the same weekend as the Notting Hill Carnival. And there's Govanhill Bass website, govanhillbass.com. You'll be able to download the full programme there. And it kicks off officially tomorrow night with Love Music, Hate Racism, who are doing an online screening of the film White Riot, which is about the history of the Rock Against Racism movement in the Anti-Nazi League, with some of the original contributors to that. So they're doing a screening of that with a Q&A with a director, and then they've got an after party. Love Music, Hate Racism. We've been doing these gigs during the lockdown where, you can just tune in directly, have your own wee party in your own house while they're playing live. That's the first event. That's tomorrow night, and it runs for about 11 days.
That's amazing, man. And is there going to? I'm just looking at the program just now, and I'm just going to put that on the screen. So for this week's, there is. It should be coming up on your screen just now, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to download that, here we go. So it's govanhillbaths.com to download the program for this week's festival. So is there going to be live music?
Well, there actually is. The after party for Love Music, Hate Racism it'll be live streamed music. Some of the bands that's involved in Love Music, Hate Racism. And they put a compilation album out as well, sort of around about now. I think it's just due to come out. Tony Bruce from Love Music, Hate Racism, she'll be here later to tell us a bit about that. And also on the 30th, the Sunday, which is the second last day of the festival, Music Broth, Ando Glass, which is a Roma music group, and the Big Noise Orchestra are organising a street music festival. So people are going to be playing from their houses, from their windows, on street corners and doorways and things like that, right through Govanhill. All Sunday, you'll hear music wherever you go. And that's going to be fantastic. There's a whole load of musicians, all different kinds of music, all different instruments going to be joining in. And that Sunday, you won't be able to walk anywhere in Govanhill without hearing music. I'm really looking forward to that.
Amazing stuff. Well, it's not obviously something that's been sadly missing from the fabric of Glasgow and the world. I mean, it's just music.
Sad. Sorry, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, just the fact that there's been a lack of music, so it's going to be good to hear that. And people, I mean, it's one of those things that you see now. Obviously, when Italy and Spain was having its lockdown before the UK or whatever, there was people singing opera to each other out the windows. There wasn't really much of an equivalent like that here.
Nah, but nothing like it. You see people joining in and singing Bella Ciao right across the streets and all that stuff. But hopefully next Sunday will be like that. So a weekend Sunday is the Street Music Festival. But I think Felix Slavin from Music Broth's coming on later. He's going to tell us more about that, how they put it together. What I do is I just kind of facilitate people. I just like sort of get people together and get them kicked off and started. And all of these events are run by our partners. So the Govanhill Bass is a kind of overall umbrella thing. But we don't run all the events. We like to get people to come in and join in with us, and they will themselves like take over and run their own events. So the Street Music Festival, I'm as much in the dark as anyone else, apart from the original plan. So Felix will hopefully be able to tell us more about it, how they put it together, and what it's going to be like. But we've got all sorts of partners. The Govanhill Housing Association, Community Development Trust are running a children's festival, which runs all the way through it. Some online stuff, some live stuff, some playing in the park and things like that. We've got the Rum Shack, Street Level Photo Works, Music Broth, Big Noise Orchestra, loads and loads of different organisations. The Glasgow Zine Library, Glasgow Moving Image people. All of these people are going to be doing their own events. I think that's part of it, that Govanhill's got so many good, interesting organisations.
How long? I mean, obviously you're originally an Ayrshire lad, Jim. So when was the first time you either moved to Govanhill or just started getting involved in events in Govanhill?
2012, I moved here to take the job at Govanhill Bass. But I've always had a connection with Govanhill. Like my brother-in-law lived here for a while, and my best mate, Mark Gilroy, he was brought up here, and we were always back and forward for Govanhill. Govanhill's always been one of those places where students and people in bands and all the people that are skint would come here and rent flats. So throughout my life, I've always had a connection coming and going for Govanhill. It was 8 years since I moved here. I got a job working with Govanhill Baths, and I decided to move round the corner and just became a mate. I've never come across a place like this. The amount of community engagement, the amount of people who are just thoroughly invested in their community is just amazing. So you can't help like joining in and being part of it.
And it's in the last so in the 8 years that you've been staying there, what's the differences you've noticed?
As a lot of people like to talk about the differences, what I've noticed is the kind of history repeats. Govanhill's much the same as it always was. There's a right mix of sort of local working class people, immigrants, students, artists, and all that. And that was the same in the 80s to a certain extent. But all the usual social things that affect society affect Govanhill. So at one point in the 90s, there was a really bad heroin problem. There's a big housing problem here. There's a lot of overcrowding and crap landlords. In one quarter of Govanhill, anyway, there's also a lot of really good quality housing in Govanhill. But the thing I've noticed is, on the sort of west side of Govanhill, the Vicky Road, which is the kind of border with Strathbungo, there's been a regeneration. There's a lot of empty shops, and 8 years ago it was mainly charity shops, pawnbrokers and bookies, and now there's all sorts of coffee shops and record shops, upcycling shops, vintage stores and things like that. So there's been a real change in the amount of people that who live here and actually want to do something in their community and set up little businesses and things, and that has encouraged other people to start coming to Govanhill. So there's been a massive change, and unlike other gentrifications, we've kind of held on to the housing stock. It hasn't like made housing unaffordable, because most of the housing here is still public or social housing, and there is no room to build any more houses. All the gap sites that are getting built on right now are building housing for rent, social housing for rent, or even mid-market rent, which is not great, but it's better than private rent. And the council and government have been embarking on a thing over the last 5 years to buy back private housing, buy out the old landlords and bring them back into the public sector and hand those houses over to housing association. So we're getting all that sort of good thing about gentrification, the record shops and the good coffee shops and all that, but we're not getting the other thing that goes along with it, unaffordable rents and people moving the poor people out to replacing the rich people. That's not happening because there is no room for the private sector to take over the housing here. I'm pretty sure all round about it, in Myrtle Park and Shawlands and Pollock Shields, Strathbungo, they're seeing that kind of house price rising the way that's happened in other areas. But Govanhill's helped that way. You can still rent something really pretty cheap, cheaper than most parts of it, and you still buy a flat here cheaper than you can anywhere else in the country. So,
and for international viewers as well that maybe don't know where Govanhill's located, it is right next to the city centre. And maybe that's a reason that, well, before, I mean, obviously I'm not going back as far as the 90s, but maybe the early 2000s. I remember when I stayed in the south side, there wasn't, like you said, it was pawnbrokers, or like there wasn't the shops, but it seems like the gentrification there is coffee shops, there's venues, there's pubs, and good pubs like that as well. And it's because maybe you think that was maybe the problem before, because it was right next to the city, everyone just went to the city to do things. And now it seems like Govanhill and wider in the south side, there is actually things to do. Because when I stayed in the south side quite recently, and when I was living there, you didn't have to even leave the south to have a good night out or to go shopping or anything like that.
I think that, I mean, if you go right back to the 80s and all that, it was pretty self-contained. I had the Cladder Club at the end of my street, the Irish Club, which was also known as the Upside Down Club, which was loads of punk gigs and all that. And McNeil's always had live bands and all that. And there was always good old family-run shops that filled Vicky Road. But it sort of died away like a lot of things in the 80s. Those kind of businesses disappeared. And so it's a bit of a resurgence back to what it was rather than a brand new thing. People who live in the 70s and 80s will remember it the same way as you'll remember it for 2000. But I mean, it's quite incredible now that what goes on. And I think the good thing for me is lots of these things that are springing up, these little sort of shops on Vicky Road, if you go speak to the people, you'll find out that they're from here. They're not like speculators moving in. They're people who maybe worked in restaurants or owned restaurants up the town. And now, because we've created a market for it, like they're now able to open a pizza shop or a coffee shop in their own area where they live. And there's a lot of that happening. A lot of it's happening by people who actually live here and generate that stuff happening themselves.
Is there an element at all in because I don't know if this is just what I think, but it seems to me like maybe the West End got so expensive that's why you're getting a lot more musicians or students or whatever. Just that maybe this doesn't apply to Govanhill, but maybe just the South Side more as a wider thing.
I think so. There's certain parts of the town became ludicrous, and also in the West End, it was just nothing but student flats getting built all the time, which was aimed at the money that foreign students bring in. So it was aimed a lot at Chinese students and all that, rather than local people. Because you may now get your tuition fees paid, but that doesn't mean uni's free. You know, it's still, you don't get housing benefit or anything like that, so it costs people a fortune. So students have to find somewhere cheap, so they move further and further out. So Ibrox and Kinnan Park and Cessnock and Govanhill and all the places, we've got a lot more students than we had a few years ago. But the musicians and that always lived around here. If you talk to the musicians from the 80s and all that, to the guys who like the Bluebells, and you talk to Alan McGee and Bobby Gillespie and all that, they all lived around here. They in their time. So there is a kind of thing where it's always had that kind of edginess that's a kind of mixture between the sort of working class of Govanhill and the students and the arty types. So it's always been there. But I think now it's got to that stage where people recognise it as that. Well, being in the Guardian and places like that is like the top 10 most interesting places to live and things like that. It's quite unbelievable that we get these like kind of hipster magazines doing little walking tours of Govanhill where to get a coffee and all that. And that never happened. There was always interesting people lived here. There was always interesting things going on, but the level it's at the now never happened. But as I say, it's not getting like Shoreditch or Brick Lane did, or Brixton is happening to now, where they're moving the poor out. I mean, part of the appeal of Govanhill is the cheap housing, and the poor are still here. We're all still here. I'm skint, and I'm loving it.
And you are Govanhill Baths. You've just left Govanhill Baths, so you're still working in some. Yeah,
it's just a sort of changeover. I now work with Bella Caledonia, but I was working as the arts coordinator again for Govanhill Baths there, and I left. And there's the new arts coordinator is Anna Lomas. Had worked in Platform and various other places, but because she's come in like a week or so before the festival, I'll stay on until the festival's done and help her with that. So she'll be taking over all stuff I previously did at Govanhill Baths from then on, and she'll be heavily involved in the festival as well. She's very experienced, knows what she's doing when it comes to arts events and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to. She'll be quite an exciting change actually. She's got quite a lot of good ideas and things. So I think sometimes, Mark, there's a shelf life to everybody. You know, there's only so much you can do in an organisation until it's time to move on and let somebody else fresh in, you know?
Well, I suppose that's what a new person brings in, an element of enthusiasm and fresh ideas. And also, I suppose sometimes the problem is as well is that even if someone tries to do something similar that you tried to do, sometimes because if you've tried something and it didn't work out, you might write something off. But then if someone comes in with fresh ideas, maybe they can implement it better, or maybe they're just not going to, they're just going to do it in a whole new way.
Aye, absolutely. And they have different contacts. They might have a lot of the same contacts, but they'll have different ones as well. So they bring in new people join in. And that's always what we've done at Govanhill Baths, which is, I think, the kind of one of the main instigators of the kind of regeneration of Govanhill has been the campaign to save the baths. And what we've always done there is there's people there who have been involved right from day one, who chained themselves to sunbeds and all that, through to new people just coming in this year. And there's always been a constant flow of people coming in and out. And if you don't have that as an organisation, as a community, you don't get fresh ideas. I've seen so many charities and organisations in the third sector become like the personal fiefdoms of a few people. And it kind of chokes it. Eventually, when those people run out of energy or move away, then the thing's finished. But Govanhill Baths is just grows and grows and grows all the time, you know.
And I suppose that's a good point as well, because everybody who knows you, Jim, already knows about the Govanhill Baths. So maybe you have taken it as far as you can go from that point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll always be involved with the baths. It's something that's like kind of dear to my heart and all that. But yeah, I think there's only so much you can do, and I think the legacy of some of the things I've done, we're now at a stage where the baths is closed down for refurbishment. So it's a different stage in its history, and sometimes that needs different people with different kind of ideas. But I think the legacy of like the festival and the things. I mean, originally the festival was just myself and Fatima and Stevie West and a few others. I just thought, you know, why don't we just make this gig a bit bigger? Why don't we put on some support side events? And I think last year we had 68 or 69 events on it, and it would probably be the same. It'd be bigger this year if it wasn't for the virus.
Well, that's another good point as well, Jim, because obviously you've had a bit of time to think about it. Not many festivals had any time to think about it, because up until fairly recently, a lot of people still believed that the festivals would go on as normal. So you've had a bit of time, and obviously the problem, there's many things you can't do, but I suppose by opening up on an online platform means there's probably things that you can do as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're all getting better at the online thing as well, Mark. I think at the start of this lockdown,
as you said that, is this me? Is this mine?
So, sorry, say again.
I think it was just, as you said, I think we're getting better at the online thing. Well, you said that we're just getting better at the online thing, and then I kind of cut out.
I didn't mean you specifically, although you are. But I think at the start of the lockdown, and everybody we really didn't know how do you do these online gigs, and some of them are quite shambolic, some of them are a bit like shabby and all that stuff. And as we went along, all sorts of people in the arts have found better ways of doing it, so we are getting better at it. And at one point we did think of cancelling the festival, but we always had this thing in the back of our mind that you never know. I mean, things might have opened up and got better by then. So we eventually decided, well, things like the book festival can go ahead with just having Zoom conversations instead of public meetings and things like that, you know.
Well, that's it, absolutely. Because if you're, we've got Alan Rodison in the house. I'm all right, Jim. All right, Mark. How you doing? I'm well, Alan. Hope you're good. Petra says weird audio echoing you, Mark. No, I think that's because Jim's not got his headphones. But if I mute Jim while I'm talking, actually, if I mute Jim while I'm talking, and then give it a second, and then Jim say something.
Something.
Sorted. I think we're fine. And John McMustard's in the house. He's saying loving the conversation, guys. You can see John McMustard is from a band called Colonel Mustard and the Dijon 5, who are going to be playing our first ever live streamed gig since the lockdown began. And sorry, man.
The Mustards nearly played. Colonel Mustard and the Dijon 5 nearly played the first one that when I talked about with the big reggae bands was actually a 2-day festival, and the Sunday was meant to be Black Grape with Colonel Mustard and the Dijon 5, which would have been, I mean, how good a lineup is that? That would have been tremendous. And Big Tag, it was meant to be. And for a whole load of different kind of various reasons, it couldn't go ahead and didn't go ahead. But that was one of the big regrets. There's still very rare posters out there where you'll see that gig, the gig that didn't happen. Black Grape, Colonel Mustard and the Dijon 5. And that to me, that would have been your ultimate Govanhill Festival gig. That would have been tremendous.
Well, I was actually going to be, I was looking forward to playing that one. I was going to do my one song with Colonel Mustard, because I love Black Grape, and I'd love to interview Sean Ryder as well. So I was hoping to maybe get a wee message from him, you know, saying, "What was getting a wee? Oh, this is Sean Ryder listening to you call that radio." I'd be happy enough with that, to be honest. We've got a comment from Vivian, says Jim's been an absolute star for Govanhill Baths. Everyone involved is extremely grateful to him and full of admiration for what he's achieved for our community.
Well, not everyone.
You don't do a good job without upsetting a few people.
Yeah, man, you can't make an omelette without breaking some eggs. But I am I'm not popular with the racists. Let's put it that way.
Well, I suppose that's an element like I've seen, and look at the odd Facebook thread or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
I don't. I'm also involved with Romano Lav, the Roma charity, and as everybody knows, we have a big Eastern European Roma community or communities here in Govanhill. So that's led to that kind of xenophobic thing that always happens. But all the things that already happened then become the blame of, if there's house breakings, it must be the Roma. It must have, so we had that sort of thing, and I've been at the forefront of fighting back for our community against it. And my family are partly from a traveller community anyway, so I'm a natural ally of these people. So I put myself at the forefront of that. Sometimes I do that because if you do that, it distracts from them. If everybody's having a go at certain groups and you stick your head in, then within 5 minutes they're all having a go at me, and then the Roma people are left alone to get away with it, and they'll focus on me. So there are some people who are not enamoured with my contribution to Govanhill. So. But thanks, Vivian.
Why do you think it is that when there is problems in an area, largely due to poverty, that people seem to have a pop at the people that are struggling with poverty rather than the politicians or the corporations who cause it?
It's just easy targets. And also, the politicians are just as guilty, because what they'll do, they'll ignore that, or they'll give sort of tacit support to people speaking out against it. But they'll ignore that because it's also the most vulnerable people are also the people that don't vote, so they care less about them. And that's a story that's always kind of happened in Govanhill as well, because there was a big backlash against Irish people here, huge Irish population here. You can still buy Donegal local papers. Then people from Pakistan and India, and also in the 80s and 90s, the heroin addicts were to blame for everything, as if there wasn't any alcoholics or stabbings or gangs or anything before, So the most vulnerable people, the people that need the most support, tend to be the people that get blamed by a certain group, but certain collection of people. But I do think that sometimes these people are a lot louder. Their bat's worse than their bite. Because when we take the thing about the carnival and International Roma Day and everything is, we take it out onto the streets. And when you take it out onto the streets, you would get sometimes on Facebook the impression that Govanhill's split in two between this angry group of people who lived there and the other people who came in. But you get out onto the streets, you'll see that 90% of people in Govanhill love this area for what it is and will take part in these things and celebrate it. They're not like that, It's just that sometimes the bigots can get a much louder voice than they deserve.
And I think we've got ready for our first guest of the evening. Jim, you're hosting it, so who is our next guest?
Have they arrived? I think
we've got two arrived in the waiting room. So,
excellent. So our first guest should be, I think, Felix Slavin from Music Broth and
Felix
from Love Music, Hate Racism.
That's correct. We bring them both on at the same time?
I think so. Why not?
Let's do that.
Brothers and sisters, may the peace that can only come from the one God be upon you. We are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale.
Powered by our patrons. It's You Call That Radio, and it's a Govanhill International Festival and Carnival special. The online event begins tomorrow, so we're having a little preview and speaking to some of the people involved. We're just going to bring on our first guest. We've got Felix representing Music Broth. How you doing, Felix?
Good, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. And we've got Tony. How you doing, Tony?
Tony.
So probably the best way to do this would be we could maybe just get we'll start with Felix. We did have a special on Music Broth on You Call That Radio a few weeks ago, but Felix, you couldn't make it, so I haven't actually spoke to you directly about it. So if you just give people a quick background on what Music Broth is.
Sure. Yeah, Music Broth's a music instrument library based in Govanhill, Glasgow. So we make it easier for people to access music instruments. We've got a library membership model, so individuals can get access, bands, families, organisations, and we also do music workshops and online music tutorials, and we also offer volunteer opportunities as well to people in the community.
Brilliant stuff. And Tony, if you just give us a quick intro.
Nationwide non-profit organisation made up of musicians, activists, designers, writers, just sort of everyone. Just sort of bringing people together through the awesome power of music to kind of come together and
Right, Tony, it sounded a little bit quiet there. I don't know if it's at my end. Is that Jim? Could you hear that? Okay, Felix.
I couldn't hear you there, Tony. I could just hear a little bit.
I couldn't hear much either.
Is there any way to turn yourself up, or are you maybe too far away from the microphone?
I'm pretty near. I'll try and sort it. Maybe just not to Felix, and I'll try and work out.
Okay, we'll go to Felix because obviously the Music Broth thing is a fantastic idea, and I remember you first talking about it, Felix, when I think one of the first times I met you, you were talking about the idea of it.
Yeah, that would have been a while ago now. But yeah, I mean, the idea basically came about from wanting to make use of the music instruments that I had. I inherited them from my uncle who passed away, and I wasn't making much use of them. So just getting them out into the community seemed like a good idea. So the music instrument library seemed like the best way to go about that, and it kind of naturally just blossomed. So yeah, I think the community just really were interested in the idea, and there's definitely been a demand for it. And it's we've been able to look at different ways to engage with the community to make it easier for people to try music out, especially people who kind of have lost a bit of confidence or just want to pick it up as a hobby. The whole thing about it's just kind of inclusivity and trying things out and accessibility. So yeah, I think that's about 3 years. We're getting on about 3 years now. Hoping for big things moving ahead.
Okay, Tony, I'm going to go back to you. I've just muted your mic, so don't worry about that. I muted your mic because I think there's a bit of delay coming off that. But that probably means that I'll be able to hear you okay. So if you want to just give us another wee introduction, Tony.
All right, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, do you have to have the headphones or like earphones or anything like that? Because sometimes that makes the big difference, and I think that you usually get away with maybe one person without earphones or headphones, but I think we've got about 3 here, so maybe that's causing a delay. Oh, you don't have any headphones? Don't worry, we'll come back to you in a little bit. Keep fighting the good fight, says Lise. And Joe McMustard says he would have loved that gig with Black Grape. Jim, when did you first come across Music Broth?
Music Broth, I just heard about when they moved to Govanhill. I think it's a fantastic idea, and quite interesting stuff they've been doing. Of course, they're based in Govanhill, but it's all over Glasgow and beyond that they do. But the thing that I think the first time I met Felix was on a online meeting where we were discussing the festival, and I think it was Music Broth that came up with originally the idea of the street music festival, which is going to be on like a week on Sunday. I think it's the 30th. And I was telling Mark a bit about that, Felix. I don't know if you want to explain what the street music festival entails and what it's going to be like.
Yeah, sure. Just to start with, Catherine Midgley from the Govanhill Baths, she actually brought forward this idea that was inspired by the Fête de la Musique in France. So the whole concept is that, music is everywhere, coming from people's windows, on the streets, and it's just a whole vibrant, interactive event for everybody to enjoy. So I think because of COVID-19, the idea to have a street music festival, obviously taking into account social distancing and all that, was quite a good idea for bringing the community together. So we were obviously right up for getting involved in that, and as you said, Jim, we met in the Govanhill Creative Group, which was set up effectively through a COVID response, and we were obviously able to sort of work on partnerships and networking a lot better with other organisations. So through that, we put together the plans for the event. We've obviously been able to support that in terms of like equipment and tech support, the logistics, and obviously trying to encourage musicians locally to get involved. So yeah, we've managed to get a bit of money in to run the event, and it's scheduled for Sunday the 30th, 1 till 5 in August. So we're looking forward to it.
And what kind of challenges have you seen for trying to switch to an online thing? Because I know you're normally quite hands-on, Felix.
Well, the big shock to you is that this is scheduled to be a live event and outdoors. So we have been asking musicians to put forward the requests to play in Govanhill. So we've located a few places that musicians can perform. And we've also suggested that they can perform from their window or from their close door or just from a street corner. And where we come in, Music Broth, we're engaging with them and trying to figure out, well, is there any equipment that you need? We can sort you out with that. So we've got things like busking amps, which are probably best suited for this kind of event. And we've obviously got, locations which will have more people playing at, so stages effectively, but places like Govanhill Park and just outside the Bee's Knees Cafe. So yeah, I'd say as a contingency, having the event online is definitely going to happen, and there's going to be some way of showcasing the event as a sort of legacy as well. So we'll obviously be taking lots of pictures, and there'll be things online for people to access this event.
Well, just before we go back to Tony, Felix, just want also I noticed that on your YouTube channel is you've been doing some more sort of online content.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, is that like sort of it's like I see that you've got like some beatboxing, some pedal delay stuff, so sort of like tutorials just to kind of maybe give people some advice or some inspiration for if they're maybe, because obviously there's a lot more people trying things out at home. So obviously you've, without that hands-on approach, it means you've also been able to do something online that people can get involved in.
Yeah, I mean, see the idea for that, it actually came from one of our volunteers. He comes in, Philip's his name, he comes in to Music Broth on a weekly basis, and he does guitar maintenance. He's amazing, and he actually just started sending us some videos of him like testing equipment out and trying a guitar out with solo and playing with pedals. So we just thought this is a really good way to show people what's in the library, and then that idea sort of spiraled into asking local musicians and tutors if they wanted to do some tutorials, and people like Liam, who did the beatbox, and people like Andrea, she's local to Govanhill, doing songwriting. And we've also just recently had Iman Hassan. He's did a tutorial on using the santur, which is an old Iranian instrument, similar to a dulcimer. So it's just a way to show the eclectic nature of Music Broth. We've got loads of stuff in the library, and also people should be able to access that for free. So that's even better.
Is that Jenny Tingle I see in the Junkyard Snare Hacks?
Yeah, Jenny as well, I should have mentioned. So
let's just cut to that just now, and we'll bring Tony back in. But just to kind of give people an idea, because the Music Broth YouTube channel is a really good way of finding out what it is you guys are all about. So let's just do that. So this is the Junkyard Drums 3 Snare Hacks with Jenny Tingle.
Hello, it's Jenny from Music Broth here. I've got a short video about hacks for your snare. These are quite simple things, and most people will probably have thought some of these already, or you'll have different ones, but here's some things that I do. Firstly, we've got our snare. It's got a bit of ring to it. So what I do to dampen that ring is, this is moon gel, but it's quite expensive, so a cheaper solution is this here. This is window sticker. You can see it dampens all the overtones. Another option is, instead of using gel, use gaffer tape with a bit of toilet paper or a tissue on the back. I use this in studios because people don't steal it. And you can see it works quite well for overtones. It's for snare sounds. Just taking off the snare wires, which is a simple thing to try. Interesting sound for certain songs. Also, we've got sounds pretty cool, right? Random chains from bits of old jewellery. Also, if you're doing a wee open mic night, you can try using a wallet. This one's a bit big, but dampens things pretty nicely. Another thing, my many keys from my many day jobs. A bit of paper. Just adds a wee bit of an extra snap. And also the face on my snare is done by my wonderful wee drum pupil Erin. Hi Erin. I think it's an amazing face. I think it really suits it. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed these simple and easy snare hacks. That's all for now. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Brothers and sisters,
That's you, Daniel. Are you before me?
Call that radio.
You call that radio.
Hello, yes, this is Dog.
You are tuned in to You Call That Radio. It's the Govanhill International Festival and Carnival. We've got some amazing guests on just now. Just before I go back to them, I just want to give a wee shout out to tomorrow night's show. We have the fitness fanatic, fitness guru, actually, former Aberdeen player and Dundee legend, Dean Wallace, who's got a really good podcast called The Dean Wallace Show. He'll be on here tomorrow night. On Saturday, we are doing our first ever proper live stream gig since lockdown began. It's Bomb Scare, Colonel Mustard, Gyro Babies, Twistettes, and Callum Ingram live from Capture Works. So from 3 o'clock to late, you can tune in for a top-class audio, visual, immersive, real-time experience. Then on Monday, we've got the brilliant Becky Wallace who's going to take over the show Monday and Wednesday to talk about women's experiences in the Scottish music industry. And you can see there's a lot of names, and she's added more names than that since then. My co-host for this evening is Jim Moran. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, Mark. Yeah.
We have Felix.
Have we got Tony working again?
Yeah, Tony. I think we've got Tony back. We're going to try. Tony, can you hear me? Oh, I've muted you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Woo!
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
I found these like your gamer headphone with a mic, so we're all sorted.
But
that's all we needed. That's brilliant, Tony. Well, I think we're probably best getting an introduction from you again, because it was just very quiet. So,
Yeah, no
Tony,
worries.
please just take it away again. Feel free to say the same thing again.
Aye, no worries at all. So, so I'm from an organisation called Love Music, Hate Racism. So I'm part of the Glasgow branch, but it's actually a kind of nationwide campaign with branches up and down the country, which is a really cool thing, I think, because it kind of creates this network and so kind of support network of musicians and activists all over the country. So essentially our goal is to unite people in anti-racist activity through the power of music. And we do this through lots of different ways. Before COVID, we'd be putting on lots of gigs. Now, kind of during lockdown, we started this living room live session. So I think Jim mentioned it before, but we'd invite artists to kind of come on and share their music, their poetry. We'd also have like kind of talks. So we had this brilliant talk by these two DJs and anti-racist campaigners, and it was called Soul and the Civil Rights Movement. So it was kind of talking about the civil rights movement in America and how soul was kind of the soundtrack to it. So that was a really sort of fantastic night, and they'd be playing their own records and we'd be all dancing in their living rooms on Zoom. So that was super fun. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
No, that's amazing. And I have been to a couple of your gigs before. I think you had a gig going with, was it Bomb Scare and the Twistettes and stuff?
That might have been before my time, but I've been involved for a couple of years.
All right, well.
Oh, Jim
is it?
That was an annual gig called Love Glasgow Hate Racism. Which is the guys that run the St. Pauli anti-fascist thing. So they have an annual one-off big gig. So I think this year they had Bomb Scare. I think the year before they had Billy Bragg and others like that. So that's slightly separate organisation with similar aims, but specific to Glasgow and the St. Pauli football thing.
So trust me, just put my foot in it.
Love Music Hate Racism had Loki on tour, played the Rum Shack a few months back.
Yes.
With Johnny.
That's fantastic. Did you go to that, Jim?
No, I didn't. I was somewhere else at the time. But
what's your excuse, Jim? What was your excuse? Why are you missing that? It's local to you.
I don't know. I think I was in Cumnock maybe or something.
It's good you're talking about, Tony. You're talking about the Zoom calls and the fact that you had everybody dancing along to music on a Zoom call. So it's really good that you're still getting that engagement and bringing people together, despite the fact that it is online. So is there anyone in the group who's actually naturally good at the tech side of things, or is it just been learning as you go, like I've been doing, like I'm still doing tonight?
Yeah, definitely learning as we go. When we started out, there was quite a lot of mishaps. But yeah, just kind of, actually the first, so we did Rebel's Guide to Disco, which was the same two DJs, and they were talking about the kind of birth of disco and how it wasn't really about the Bee Gees, or it was about black musicians in America kind of taking charge with that type of music. And it was supposed to be a Facebook Live event, but it totally fucked up. Sorry.
Copyright? Was it the copyright thing? Because sometimes that happens to us. The copyright robots come in and say, you can't do that.
Yeah, it just didn't work. So we moved it to Zoom, which was actually such a good kind of a mistake that turned into a really beautiful thing, because everyone could see each other. And this was maybe like a month into lockdown. So everyone was, obviously very kind of scared and depressed and didn't really know what the hell was going on. And it was the first time I danced in a month. And it was just so lovely to see everyone together, enjoying music together and dancing around in our living rooms, separate but apart. So yeah, that was a great night.
Felix, how's your how's have you been finding the switch to the online in general? Do you think that the good thing is maybe we're everybody's learning, even at their own level, different skills that in the future, when we can have the meetups and events, that in the future it's going to bring us all these extra skills that we might not have had and sort of technological knowledge.
Yeah, like, you know, way years ago, you probably had like a few pioneers doing this, like, and getting the hang of it. But now you've got lots of pioneers showing people the ropes. And like, I'm one of those people that just needs someone to like show me how to do things properly, or see how it's working on a platform before I'm satisfied, you know, with my own confidence in it. So I'm really impressed with like how many opportunities there are for people to like use online platforms, and like you call that radio podcast is like amazing the way it operates as well. So and at Music Broth we've got a sort of technical mind volunteer, James, who does a lot of our back end editing and like preparing for music tutorials and videos to go online. And we've actually started doing our own online music lessons as well, which was a learning curve, and but the response has been really surprising. We started, Roger White started these guitar lessons just on the Saturday the 8th there, and that's just free access online Eventbrite, and he's got loads of people joining. Like, surprisingly, it's amazing how easy it is for people to get involved in things. So the more the merrier.
And that certainly wouldn't have been something that people would have to get people involved in things online before all of this, Jim, wouldn't it? I mean, I don't think because you're an old hat at this now. You've been on this show a few times, and you've been.
I've never been off this show, and I've spent lockdown on this show, but I found it very difficult at first, and I think, as I said earlier, I think people are getting better at it. The initial things were a bit, we struggled a bit, but then I think people are getting better at it. But I want to go back to what Tony was saying about the anti-racism stuff, because that is the theme of Govanhill Festival. The theme of it is anti-racism, and to celebrate the first big concert we did, which was the 40th anniversary of Rock Against Racism. And Love Music, Hate Racism is a kind of evolution of that. And tomorrow night, our first event of the festival is the screening of a film called White Riot, which is about the history of Rock Against Racism and the Anti-Nazi League. I don't know if Tony wants to maybe tell us a wee bit about tomorrow night's event.
Yeah, Tony, and also I've got lined up after you've done that the White Riot trailer as well. So if you maybe want to talk a little bit about that, and then introduce the White Riot trailer after that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So White Riot is essentially a documentary about Rock Against Racism. Rock Against Racism was a movement that kind of emerged in the 70s. It sprang out through there was this really kind of racist, anti-immigrant sentiment speech that Eric Clapton made on stage, and people were obviously disgusted, and that's what kind of like brought Rock Against Racism together. And this was at a time when the sort of far right group, the National Front, they were trying to get seats in the election. So it was absolutely crucial that this sort of movement came about. And so, along with the Anti-Nazi League, you see the poster of the carnival has the Anti-Nazi League with the Rock Against Racism star in the kind of arrow bit. So along with the Anti-Nazi League, Rock Against Racism was seen as kind of the cultural arm of beating back the Nazis in the election. And so the film kind of follows the evolvement of the movement, and also in particular the carnival. So it was the 1978 carnival, and it's sort of it was a huge kind of anti-racist procession that finished with an enormous gig in Victoria Park in London. So I'd say this film is brilliant, but it does kind of like go back to the kind of roots and the history of the movement, but it's much more than a nostalgia trip. It's actually about a kind of new generation coming together, taking up the fight against racism, and coming together in music and protest. And that's kind of where Love Music, Hate Racism get their inspiration, get their kind of back foot from it aiming to unite people against racism through the power of music. So yeah, that's
And
what
what time's that tomorrow at?
right. So it's basically So what it is you can buy tickets. It is a ticketed event, unfortunately. This is because the GFT is the Glasgow Film Theatre need support at this kind of crucial time. They've been closed for about 5 months. But we do have a discount on our page. So if you go to the Love Music, Hate Racism Glasgow page, you can get a 25% discount. And the film is going to be available to watch from 10 a.m. tomorrow. But we would recommend that you watch it at 7 p.m. because after the film, you've got a wee bit of time to grab a beer or a coffee or whatever. And we're going to be hosting a panel discussion on our page, on the Facebook page at 8:30. So I'll just say a wee bit about the panel. So we've got the director, she's called Rubika Shah. So she's a brilliant film director. And then we kind of wanted to curate a panel that sort of delves into the history of the movement, but also kind of taking the thread of anti-racist activity and following it through to the work that a new generation of activists are doing. So we've got, for the kind of history side, we've got John McNeil. He is a musician in a punk band, the Zips, and they were a band that played Rock Against Racism gigs. We've got
fantastic band.
Yeah, we've got a anti-racist campaigner, Charlotte Ahmed, who was a teenager when the Rock Against Racism gigs were taking place. So it's kind of, she's still a very prominent anti-racist campaigner now. So it's kind of taking the past and kind of putting it into what's going on now. And then we've also got a refugee rights campaigner who's doing a lot of work in Glasgow with what's going on right now and the current situation, Pinar Aksu. So yeah, we've got really good panel. And then after the panel, we're going to be hosting a kind of after party special at around 9:15, both on our page as well. Oh, Mark, you're muted.
That's the most common phrase of lockdown, isn't it? You're muted. Yeah, so if you want to see the programme and download the programme just to see all the amazing events, including this one that we just spoke about there, then govanhillbaths.com to download it all and see it for yourself. So that's tomorrow night. Sounds great. I've got the White Riot video. If you just want to, Tony, just tell us a little bit about this.
So it's it's basically I haven't seen the trailer in a bit, but it's just kind of.
Well, do you know what? Well, don't say any more then. Let's just be. I've not seen it yet either. So Jim, have you seen it?
I've not seen the film yet, but I've seen the trailer, and it's quite an amazing thing. I'm old enough to have been at some of those gigs back in the day. And also the guys that founded it, Roger and Red Saunders, they came up to Glasgow a couple of years back, the same year that we did the first Govanhill Festival, the launch of their book, Reminiscences of Rock Against Racism. They are featured heavily in the film. Red Saunders was a photographer and Roger was a political activist. And they were blues musicians, were in the blues scene. And it all started when Eric Clapton did his big, horrible, racist rant about, Bill's speech. And all these guys that were sort of blues musicians thought, look, we can't have that. We can't have guys who use black music. So they started what they thought would be just a little couple of gigs in blues clubs with their mates and ended up these massive, massive festivals with the Specials and Steel Pulse and the Buzzcocks and Elvis Costello and all these amazing bands all over the country. So it was an amazing thing. It was an amazing part of history. So when I saw the trailer, I was quite interested in that way, especially Red and Roger, because they're great guys and they're still active anti-racist campaigners now.
Well, we've got just a couple of quotes before we play that. We've got to keep up the good work, Felix. Well done, Felix, says Alan as well. And tomorrow night sounds worth going to. Great idea to support the GFT. Love the Zips, amazing people in band. Yes, let's watch the trailer, and then we'll we've got more guests lined up. But so let's just watch this first.
I was asked, would you come down and photograph the punk night? suddenly the Clash come on, and bang! There was this incredible cultural explosion going on.
It was a scary moment because punk could have gone either way. Some of the bands did have NF following.
The National Front were growing incredibly.
Keep our country free from invasion.
They're not English. They don't belong here.
We said what we need to do is do a gig, thing called Rock Against Racism.
We're against racism in all facets of British life.
We want rebel music, street music, music that breaks down people's fear of one another, music that knows who the real enemy is. Love music, hate racism. In this society, we're made to feel powerless and useless, and that the great and the good should do our thinking for us. And one of the wonderful things that we did in RAL was to say, no, just ordinary people, we can do things, we can change the world.
Brilliant stuff.
I got you. Ready?
Yeah, he's
1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yo, this is Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5 live and direct here in Glasgow, Scotland, and you call that radio?
Upon you, we are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale. We see the crimes of this government, how they support every dictator and criminal on this earth. Sometimes you can feel down. Sometimes
You are tuned in to You Call That Radio. It is... Hold on, I'll just bring myself back on the screen. You're tuned in to You Call That Radio. It's the Govanhill International Festival and Carnival. Just a wee reminder that if you're watching this on Facebook, you're better off going to youtube.com/You Call That Radio. It sounds a bit better and it'll look a bit better. Or if you're on Twitch, it'll sound and look a wee bit better on Twitch as well. And also shout outs to everyone who supports the show on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/You Call That Radio. We've got Jim Mona in the house.
How's it going, Matt? Are we starting to overload with guests now?
No. I think we're all right. I think we're. Are we going to keep the guests, or are we just going to bring on new ones, or do we keep them all? You're the boss, Jim. You're hosting.
It's up to them. I mean, there's still things to talk about. It's up to them whether they hang around or.
Okay, so what we'll do is we've still got Felix and we've still got Tony. So you can just feel free to just sort of hang around, and if you've got anything to say, then please do feel like you can get involved. But we do have two new guests also lined up. So I'm just going to I don't know if you've ever seen the Royal Rumble, Jim, but it's kind of like the Royal Rumble. We'll just have a wee countdown and see who the next special guest is.
It's Hannah Lavery.
Hello, Hannah. How you doing?
Hiya. I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you'd just like to give everyone a wee introduction to yourself, please.
Oh, okay. My name is Hannah Lavery. I am a poet and a playwright. Yep, that'll do, I think. Hello. Hope you're all well. Yep, that's my introduction. Not great.
No,
here I am.
No, it's good.
Hannah is one of Scotland's top poets and playwrights right now. She's the sort of woman of the moment right now, and she's part of she's in two things at the Govanhill Festival. Following on from what Tony was talking about and the anti-racism theme of the festival, taking part in a discussion which is filmed live at the Rum Shack with Brian Austin from the Rum Shack and various people talking about the experience of being black and mixed race in Scotland during the Black Lives Matter thing. And Hannah's also one of our guests in the Govanhill Book Festival, along with Stuart Cosgrove, Denise Mina, Henry Bell, and Murray Armstrong. So she's in it twice.
I'm it twice. I think actually with the Rum Shack, I couldn't quite get to the Rum Shack, so I'm sort of been coming in on Zoom while everyone else gets to be there. So I don't know quite how that will work, but yeah. I'm delighted to be there.
So Jim, is the actual book group thing actually going to be in the Rum Shack with?
No, the book festival, it'll be like any other book festival, except that it'll be online. So normally at a book festival, you would have somebody reading from the book, being interviewed and having a chat about them and about their books in a theatre or whatever. So we'll just be doing that. Instead of in a theatre, it'll be in Hillbath's office and Hannah's living room and Denise Miner's study and all that kind of thing. So on the book festival, we have on Monday we have Denise Miner, crime writer. On Tuesday we've got Henry Bell, who wrote a great book about John McLean, the Red Clydesider. On Wednesday, Murray Armstrong, who's written a book about the 1820 uprising in Scotland. On Thursday, I think it's Hannah. On Thursday, Hannah Lavery, Finding Sea Glass and the Drift and the Lament for Sheku Bio. And on Friday, we have Stuart Cosgrove, who's on with Baldina from Heir of the Cursed, talking about his soul trilogy. To come back to what Tony was talking about earlier and the links to soul music and the civil rights music. Stuart wrote 3 great books, Detroit 67, Memphis 68 and Harlem 69. So we'll be talking about that and comparing it to the Black Lives Matter movement in America at the same time. So every night through the week next week, there'll be a show competing at the same time as you call that radio. There'll be me and
That's fine. That's what I get for trying to sweep in and March the 22nd, try to take 7 o'clock and try to put a show up on every day. I know that sometimes these things happen. It's fine. I've always broken. Hannah, how's it been for lockdown? Have you been using the time as a writer? Obviously, I mean, writers spend a lot of time in isolation doing the work anyway. So, has it made much of a difference to the way that you do things as a writer?
Well, I've got 3 kids, so I've been craving isolation. If I'm honest, it's felt a bit busy. So I have been doing quite a bit of writing, but probably not in this kind of quieter way as I'm used to when the kids are at school. So it's been pretty intense, actually. So no, I think a lot of writers had big plans that they were going to read loads of books and write big, huge things that they've been promising themselves, but it hasn't quite felt like that. But now that they're back at school, I'm hoping that I'll get a little bit of solitude.
But back to routine, a bit of sanity.
Yeah, hopefully. Absolutely. It's been pretty, it feels like, I think I described it as being the longest shift I've done for quite a while. So yeah, no, I've been kind of envious of people that have been, baking bread and looking out the window and being bored generally when I felt a little bit kind of overwhelmed most of it.
Well, I mean, the banana bread thing, I mean, I think banana bread was just people being a bit dramatic in week 1 or 2. I mean, I don't know if it's still baking banana bread. Jim, have you been baking banana bread?
Have a fuck. No, I've not been baking it. I've been eating banana bread, but I've not been baking it, no.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I've not had to put up with the kids, so that's one thing. But I've been doing a daily show, so I've not really had that time to stare out a window, like you say. That I'm sure there is people there just staring out a window.
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting to work out, like, as we come out of it, all the different experiences. I think there's been one that's been sort of promoted, that we've all been sort of been on furlough and doing nothing, whereas I think actually for a lot of people, obviously not counting key workers and people working for the NHS, and it has actually been a pretty kind of intense period, having to look after families, and it's not all been just knitting and I don't know, doing kind of all the lovely things that you want to do when you're not so kind of taken up with kind of everyday life. I think for some people it hasn't been the pause that has been sort of promoted. So I think it'll be interesting, to see what stories and what comes out at the other end of it, really, which we're not at the other end of at all yet. I think we've kind of forget that we're still in the midst of it, really.
yeah, it's kind of more like we've just got used to it because I think Tony said earlier on that whenever at the first couple of weeks, everyone was scared and depressed and didn't know what was going on. I mean, that's still the same. It's just that people have seemed to have got more kind of used to the weirdness of it all. But Hannah, I was just like, what about? Are you in the middle of finishing a book just now? Or are you just starting something? Or
Well, I'm a poet and a playwright, so I don't really kind of write books necessarily in that sort of way. I'm sort of working towards. I've got a few plays that I'm sort of working on, and I'm coming to the end of a few projects to get them finished, and there's a few things coming up which are quite exciting, but I'm not allowed to talk about yet. So yeah, I'm in the heat of a few things, but mostly it's just sort of kind of finishing things off and catching up on the stuff I've not actually been able to do because of kind of lockdown and having to kind of be, do lots of childcare. So, that's kind of where I'm at. So in terms of, I've been writing kind of quite a lot of new poems kind of coming out of lockdown that I've been sort of thinking about what to do with. But and yeah, so that's kind of what I've been up to, really.
So in a normal scenario, would that be how you would do it anyway? Like have a few things on the go at the same time?
Yeah, really. I think kind of I had like this year I was supposed to be doing the Lament for Sheikh Ubay. I was supposed to be part of the festival this year, and there was a few things that I was supposed to be doing as part of the kind of festival season, which I'm not. So, but yeah, I usually have a couple of projects on the go if I'm lucky, and so it's kind of balancing that out really. And I think this year it's been doing that plus doing a lot more childcare than I'm used to as well. But yeah, I think this period feels like I'm just catching up on stuff that I have had to kind of put on hold. Yeah.
Yes, Jim, are you the same with write when you're doing a writing thing? Do you have a few different ones on the go at the same time? Because for me, when I'm writing, I think it is good because I like to. If I'm only working on one thing, I'm always trying to find a distraction. So by maybe having a few different things on one go, it means you can actually enjoy because you're actually yearn to do the other project because that one sounds more fun, and then you get stuck into that one and then you switch back.
I'm pretty terrible for that. It takes me a long time to write like one poem, and I'm trying to write a novel right now. I'm sending bits through to Hannah so she can tell me what's wrong with it and all that stuff. And so I've struggled a little bit with the lockdown. I've also moved job to something that's freelance, so managing the time's a bit kind of difficult for me right now. I end up writing at 3:30 in the morning, then sleeping to 12 and things like that. But I would tend to think that I never have sort of finished things. I'm always writing all the time. So there's always something started or unfinished in a notebook on a desktop somewhere.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions coming in. So we've got Nunny Boy's just dropping to show some love. Big ups. Thank you very much, Nunny Boy. I sent you a message to try and get you on the show, I believe. Who else we got?
That would be a good show, getting Nunny on and maybe reliving some of the old time high tracks and all that as well, which is a fantastic band. Good ear.
I know, absolutely. And Petros, how do we watch Saturday's show? Is it a website? It's I think you're referring to this Saturday's show with Colin Mustard, Bomb Scared, Gyro Babies, Twistettes, and Callum Ingram. You will find out very soon. I believe it's going to be on the usual, you call that radio, which is YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Although we might be beaming it to our brand new website, we're not sure yet. But we'll let you know. We'll let you know. That's for sure. Alan Morrison was tuned in. I just tuned in again, guys. Was out earlier. Welcome back, Alan. Welcome back. Lou can't comment as she's Facebook because she's banned again. What has she done this time? Lou's always getting banned. Mary Veronica says, hi, Hannah. Sounds great. Book festival. What genre do you write?
I'm a poet, so I write poetry, and I write plays. So I'm not really necessarily, I don't know if I have to answer genre, but I'm been writing quite a lot about quite political, I suppose, at the moment, and I write quite a lot about grief. My last kind of piece of work, Finding Sea Glass, was looking at the death of my father, but also looking at issues around kind of Scotland and race and yeah. So I think, I don't know, political, would that be right, Jim? Do you think that would be a way I could describe myself? Unmute him.
I have to mute him. It's not out of disrespect. It's just because he has not he's forgot his earphones.
Shut up.
There's a wee bit of delay, and it makes me sound echoey. And people say, "Mark, you're doing it wrong."
Hannah's stuff is very political, although not in that overtly kind of party political sloganeering. It contains hugely political themes, and I think especially at this time, because at the same time as the mad lockdown, we've had like, the Black Lives Matter thing exploding around the world and all that stuff. So a lot of stuff Hannah's written already became very relevant in that, and also the fact that last year she previewed her play Lament for Sheku Bayo, who was a black man who died in police custody here in Scotland, in Kirkcaldy, 5 years ago. So it was very relevant. And that's one of the things about lockdown. Had it not been for lockdown, that play would probably have been, we'd probably have seen that at Edinburgh Festival this year. Just that people were discussing these things. So it's a really important thing. Sometimes in political writing, it's really important for it to be there at the time that that issue arrives. But Hannah's taking part in this debate that we're having and a discussion that the Rum Shack have done on Saturday. And Brian Austin from the Rum Shack got together a group of people, Barrington Rees from Black Lives Matter, Ira Osborne from the Bass Warrior Sound System, and Hannah and others, talking about the experience of being black and Scottish, which I think is a very, very important thing, because lots of my friends have been saying to me about how all of a sudden with Black Lives Matter, as well as the pressure of lockdown, that they feel sort of there's a kind of onus on them from some of their white friends to do things and be things and educate them and things like that. So we decided to do this discussion, the experience of black Scottish people, which I'm looking forward to. I'm not seen any of it yet. But I wonder, Hannah, if you could read us one of your poems. The first time Hannah came to Govanhill was to do her National Theatre Scotland show, The Drift, which is about grief, and it's also about her experiences growing up. And I think for tomorrow's, for Saturday's talk, there's a specific poem part of that show and part of Finding Sea Glass, the book, called, I think it's called Scotland. It's about Scotland. I wonder if you were up for reading it for us.
All right.
That'd be great.
I was sort of debating, because I wrote another poem. I will read Scotland, but I wrote another poem called The Specials, which felt quite relevant after just watching that trailer, because me and my son, we love to dance to The Specials. But I'll read you this.
You can do both.
Poem.
You can absolutely do both.
Well, I'll read. Well, maybe I will then. Maybe I'll. Well, why don't I read Scotland now, and then I could read the other one. So Scotland. This poem. So the Drift. I'll give a wee bit of context. So The Drift is about. My dad died in 2014, and after he died, I sort of had to I suppose part of my grieving was try to work out kind of why he was so absent and something about who he was, and I think it seemed pretty clear to me that I couldn't really think about him without thinking about the racism he experienced growing up in Scotland and his relationship to Scotland and therefore mine. And some of that was looking at our family history and looking at our family history goes back to Jamaica, and in Jamaica we had a Scottish name, Douglas, and I didn't really understand why the Scottish name was a kind of associated with my kind of black Jamaican family, and I kind of looked, once I started to look about that, kind of discovered more about Scotland's connection to slavery, and also its really strong connection to Jamaica, and so some of that is in this poem, and also some of the stuff around my family are also kind of we're also from India and Burma, and there was a lot of stuff around kind of they worked kind of as part of the empire in the colonial kind of as quite a lot of Indians did in the kind of civil service of so there's little references to that as well. So yeah, okay, enough of that. I'll just read it to you. So it's called Scotland, You're No Mine. Scotland, you're no mine, you are no his, and I don't want you. So go ahead. Oh, wait a minute. Before I start, I should also say there's some swearing in it. So is that all right?
That's
all right?
absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay, right.
They're used
start
to it.
again.
They're all used to it. They're all used to it.
That's fine. Just want to make sure that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. Yeah, they're fine.
Okay, right. Well, we'll start again. Right. Okay.
Do you know what? I'll give you a quick intro. I'll give you a quick intro. That's just as if you're coming through the curtain or you're just coming on stage.
All right. Okay. All right. Right.
Just yeah, we'll do this one.
And a medical psychiatrist calls it audio therapy.
You call that radio?
Okay. So this is Scotland, you're no mine. Scotland, you're no mine, you are no his, and I don't want you. So go ahead, say I don't belong. With your sepia tinge cross-eye, sweeping over all that swept away, blood-stained, sweat-stained, sugar for your tablet, your macaroon, you rotten, gobby, greedy, thieving, bastard you. Sitting atop all that shite and broken bones weeping. Poor me. Fuck you. I will dance jigs on your flags, blue and white, and red, it doesn't fucking matter, but you wee chancer. Fuck. For making us complicit, handing us whip and chains, an officer's coat, a civil service pen, a queen to love. And lay me out. I love you. With all your mountain thyme and your Korean, and you can say I didn't belong to you. Aye. Go on. But I am limpet stuck on you, so fuck you for no seeing one of your own. I will spill here my blood and your secrets, bleed into you root and earth, and you forever pagan will in the spill and the seep see all you really are. So fuck you, my sweet forgetful Caledonia. With love, fuck you.
Strange mood of our time.
You call that radio?
Here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow.
You call that radio?
I hope you want to see it.
You call that radio?
You call that radio? However you want to say it, that's kind of part of the fun.
Powered by our patrons.
Brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Anna, for that. And definitely would like another one from you if that's possible in a little minute.
Yep. No problem.
Jim, one more time to
That was
on you go.
Oh, the event that Hannah's taking part in on Saturday, 7 o'clock. It's already been filmed, so it'll be shown live on the Rumshack's Facebook page on Saturday, and then it'll be available on YouTube. And that's a discussion on Black Lives Matter, Black and Scottish in the Black Lives Matter era. And Hannah will also be on. Let me just double check. Thursday the 27th, it'll be me and Hannah talking about her latest projects and our previous books as well. Just a general kind of book festival event.
And yeah, if there's any of these events that you like the sound of, then you need to go to govanhillbaths.com to download the program, because there's lots of stuff happening in various different places, and govanhillbaths.com is how you can find out. And with the discussion that you're talking about, obviously we had Graham Campbell on quite recently during the Black Lives Matter thing, and we were discussing Sheku as well, which is it's why do you think it, I mean, obviously without the obvious, do you think that it's just people have just had enough now, and it was time to have these discussions
about around Black Lives Matter? I don't. It's been interesting because obviously a lot of this was this was kind of was inspired by the killing of George Floyd. So I suppose I was kind of heartened that when it came over here, that Sheku's name was mentioned as part of those demonstrations that we saw in Scotland. I don't know if people have had enough. I mean, I've had enough for quite a while, so I can't speak for people who've only just had enough. So I don't know. I'm hoping that people who felt moved to start having these discussions will continue to want to have them when they become kind of more complicated than maybe they first thought, or change is a bit more difficult to achieve. And that's kind of, what your hope is that this kind of the impetus to do something will drive people to keep moving forward, because I'm sure Jim can speak more eloquently on this, but it's anti-racism is it's a long fight, and it's not, you're not going to get any quick results from it, and I know that for many people, when it comes perhaps to educating friends or educating their own family or doing that work, it can be quite exhausting and difficult. And so I don't know. I mean, I've, as I said, I've had enough for quite a while. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what people.
Could it be that maybe people that are in more privileged positions who haven't dealt with it, or maybe not had enough time to research it, maybe they are starting to look into it and maybe understand things a bit better?
I hope so. And certainly in America, it seems that these demonstrations are moving out of just the Black community, and they're moving so that those, and I think that's really positive. And I think that there is maybe a kind of acceptance that the real work around racism is actually to be done by white people and the privilege, and it isn't, it isn't something that you should be looking at your friends of color to fix for you, or that you should seek all the answers. Or I think what I'm trying to say here, I think there's maybe people are kind of accepting that they have to educate themselves, and they can't ask their friends of color to do all the emotional labor for them. And I think, well, at least I hope that's what it is. I know that a lot of my friends of color through this moment have felt quite exhausted with people asking them to to do that work for them, or to give them answers to things. And I don't know how I can, what's the word? I don't know if I have the answers about how to stop people being racist. I can tell you what it's like to be on the receiving end of it, but I don't really know how people fix their thinking. But I don't know if it is just about individuals. I think it's probably what we've seen now is more about institutions, and it's looking at, and I definitely think when you look at the case of Sheku Bayo, we're looking at like the institutions, we're looking at the, Police Scotland, we're looking at the kind of wider institutions that are around that, and the media, exactly. And I think that I think we have to get away from just thinking it's just the one or two bad eggs. We have to think about not thinking racism looks a certain way, when actually there's a lot more insidious. And I think one of the things that came up, I mean, I was, unfortunately for the discussion at the Rumshack, I wasn't there for all the discussion. I kind of came in afterwards and answered some questions. But one of the things that we were talking about was that idea that, I forgot what I was going to say there. I've completely gone what I was about to say there. But that some of that.
I think the point you made.
Yeah, no, some of that I was going to remember now. Yeah, sorry, I just remembered. It was some of that stuff, like it's almost like the obvious racism, the kind of name calling, the stuff that you kind of think of as racism, is almost, that's easier to handle. It's the more subtle stuff that's more difficult, and it's and it's that subtle, that institutional bias and that kind of unconscious bias that people have that is the more tricky thing to have to deal with than necessarily just someone shouting something at you in the street. But I think it's easy for people to go, it's bad people that do it.
The exhaustion of having
Sorry, I missed what you said.
Sorry, Jim, can you hear me okay? Is this at Hannah's end, or are you?
No, I can hear you now.
I can hear you now, Matt. I think what Hannah's saying is really important.
Sorry, I'm getting it's breaking up a little bit. Are you back? You're back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear. I
Sorry,
can
it's
hear
just me.
everyone now.
Sorry.
I can hear you, Matt.
All right, it's kind of sort of broke up. Yeah. So sorry, just to kind of sort of follow up on that point, Jim. Is it? I think
I do think that what Hannah was saying. Sorry, I think what Hannah's saying is really important about that thing about the simplified version of racism. So we think like it's racists are the bad people who say bad and say and do bad things, and if you don't do those, say and do those bad things, that you're not racist, which is true. But we're all part of a racist society and a racist system, and you can know everywhere. So you notice it not just when the extreme thing happens, like George Floyd or Sheku Bayu. You can notice it all the way through. Anna Sarwar did a speech in the Parliament about it and how it's inbuilt in the institution. They said, and to me this was a shocking statistic, that every single head teacher of every single school in Scotland is white. That doesn't reflect our society, but not only that, it shows that somewhere along the line in the process of interviewing and promotion, there's a problem there that no black people, no Asian people, no people of colour, no people of colour at all from anywhere are being promoted through the system. So it's inherent in the system, and we're all part of that system, and we're all part of trying to change it. And it is, as Hannah says, it's a slow thing. Things like this, when it comes to the fore, they usually come from horrible tragedies, but they can bring a sort of positive effect. They just putting it forward as a conversation, having black voices there that people have to listen to. But it's a long slog. I don't see this all that much difference, although I'm only looking from the outside in, to when we were doing this, to go back to what Tony was talking about earlier on the Rock Against Racism stuff in the Anti-Nazi League, to then, because even then it was the good people who were not racists, but they still wanted to hold on to their gollywog and watch the black and white minstrel show and all that. And if you call them,
it's not enough to be not racist. You need to be anti-racist.
Yeah.
Well, it's that, and it's that thing of having a challenge, like being, like really, if you really want to do something, it's about challenging people within your own family and your own home. And, you know, as someone is mixed race, I understand what that's like to have a relative, you know, saying things that are difficult, and it's easier just to kind of let it go and maybe just to kind of, but actually maybe it is about saying, actually, that's not acceptable. And challenging people on what they say, and challenging people in the language they use, and not just leaving it to your friends of color to do that. Like, it has to be everybody that says, nope, not putting up with it. And I think what's also kind of really exhausting, this is one of the things we talked about as well in the Rum Shack discussion, was just that in Scotland, it feels very much that we spend a lot of our time having to convince people that racism is a problem. And I think if you have to spend so much of your time just convincing people that it exists, you never get to the next step where you talk about what might change and what we can do to change things. If we're always constantly having to kind of have our experience and our reality believed, because a lot, I mean, and it's, you know, it's not just me, many people will say stuff and they just don't get believed. It's just like, oh, that's not true, or you know, no, I've got a friend and he says it's fine here, and it's just like your experience is just constantly, I think, isn't that not what gaslighting is? I'm not sure. I don't quite know. But like, so you never get to the next step, which is like, what do we do about it? You seem to be spending a lot of your conversations just trying to prove it, which is exhausting.
I have seen people saying that, you know, Scotland doesn't have racism, which blows my mind that people would actually say that that's a thing. And I think what you're saying is it must be exhausting, because we talked about that with Graham as well, about how maybe just like have these conversations to take a bit more of the brunt of this, because it is an exhausting conversation, and especially getting into arguments with the All Lives Matter Brigade as well, which is bizarre. I mean, the All Lives Matter Brigade that obviously didn't have much to say about the recent refugee death that we had as well.
I think a lot of it also, I mean, when white people are starting to talk about this, and also point out things to our other white friends about how we're part of it. It's also, the struggle is also to accept the part of you that's part of the racist system, and how you're part of it, and how you benefit from it. And there's a lot of denial goes on. And I think the denial's stronger in Scotland than it is in other places. We see ourselves as a sort of racist nation, but we are, like any other like white European nation, that we are. But I think there's a tendency that the defensiveness sometimes thinks, well, it can't, what I did wasn't wrong. I didn't do anything wrong, so therefore you must be exaggerating it, etc. So there's an onus on people at a time like this, not just to listen to, but to take on board, not that thing that, oh yeah, you're right, but I'm not one of them. It's all the other ones. But we're all part of it in a way. Even people who are actively anti-racist. If you're white, you're part of that system. And you have to accept your criticism of yourself as well.
Well, yeah, and I think, and there's, but I don't think people are wanting the kind of self-flagellation either. Do you know what I mean? I don't think people. I think you want. I mean, I don't. That whole idea about just getting a lot of people feeling. Recently, I had a conversation where there was a group of people in my little town that I live in that wanted to do a big demonstration, and it got really and wanted to go and get their kids to do signs, and it was all lovely, but when they were in this kind of thread on Facebook, people were sort of saying, well, like the people of colour in the town are like, well, do you want to go to the primary school and ask them to change the curriculum? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And it was quite quickly, they're like, oh no, actually no, all we want to do is go out and get our kids to write little flyers, and we're not sure we want to do the real work. And then it became quite quickly about, oh, well, could you come in and do a special assembly? Could you do this? And you just think, and then it was a lot of deal with that fragility where people are like, well, I didn't mean to offend you. I didn't mean to upset you. And you felt, oh, no, it's fine. And I think that I'm not sure if I'm really interested in people feeling guilty. I'm interested in people doing something about it. So, yeah, you might feel bad because you have privilege, or you might feel this or that, but actually just go and use it. Like, if you are in a position where you can go walk into your local school and say, I want the education system to be different. If you've got that voice and you can use that voice to say, I want you to teach a more diverse, more, more truer history of this country, or I want you to teach books which have kind of characters that are more diverse characters. You can do that. I mean, that's where you can use your privilege if you want to be in your workplace and say, I don't want this language used. I want to make sure that the next part, that we want to make our people that we employ to make it easier, and what are the barriers we're putting up. I mean, that's where you can take that guilt or that acceptance that you might, and actually use it as something positive. Because I'm not sure a lot of people, and I'll speak for myself, I'm not interested in people feeling guilty or feeling bad. I just want them to do something. And I think there's a lot of things that people can do, and I think probably first is just educating themselves, but also most importantly, just believe in your friends of colour when they tell you, and believe in their stories. And I think that's the first step. But I think there's a lot people can do, and just little things. Like you can make little changes and make little things within your little community, or within your own family, or within your own friendship groups. They can have enormous kind of effects on people's lives and the society we live in. And if that is just to say, when someone says something about migrants or shares something, just to sort of counteract that stuff as much as you can, there you go.
I've got lots of nice comments coming in for the poem. Mary Veronica says, love it, powerful. Susan Brown's enjoying it. Bra, babes, love baby dogs, says Colette. Lise says, sensual swearing, lassie, on yourself. Alan says, people are trying to say Scotland isn't racist, just bizarre. Yeah, but I know. It is a real thing, though, sadly. It's a real thing that people are saying that they're not sure it exists. One of the most racist places I've ever been was deepest, darkest East Ayrshire. Genuinely gobsmacked. That's East Ayrshire, Jim?
Yes, deepest, darkest East Ayrshire is exactly where I come from. Yeah, I mean, but I think the further out you go for cities, that's quite quite a natural thing as well. And you see that in England or any other country. People have less experience of people of colour, and possibly the only people of colour they know are people who, are middle class and business people. So they don't know working class people of colour the way that people in cities do.
What I think we're going to do is, Jim, we've got another couple of guests that haven't been on the show yet. So I was going to say, Hannah, would you be up for giving us that one last poem, and then
I
we'll
will
bring
do.
on some other guests?
Yep.
I'll start
am I getting my intro again?
Do you want an intro?
No, I could just go straight into it unless you really want to.
No. It's just I like to offer the intro. It's
No,
an optional intro.
know. I feel like one's enough for me today. Yeah, this is a poem called The Special. So I wrote this after my son came home after kind of experiencing a pretty horrible kind of racist incident at school, but it's really about how the two of us love to dance around the kitchen to the specials. So when I was listening to that trailer that you had on for Rock Against Racism, it felt right to read something about the specials. So this is called The Specials. It's written on your face, and whilst I can still read you, let me take it for you. Take it out and leave it on the step. Here we'll be home. We'll open the windows and scream it for the neighbours to keep. Or the rooks. I let them call it out. It's staining your boots, son. And whilst I still can, let me scrub them clean, soak it up, screw it up, rip it up, leave it on the front step for the foxes. We'll be home here. We will dance to the specials in our sock feet before we open the back door and yell it to the sky. We'll go strong here. Here, sweet boy. It shockwaves just. See? We will dance to the specials in our sock feet in the half light, leave our dirty boots fallen by the back door. It's written on your face. And whilst I can still read it, let me whisper our stories so they will build to myths and legends for you to emerge from. Whole, strong, known. And let's curse the letterbox before sticking it shut with masking tape. And let's grow strong, son. Dancing to the specials in sock feet in our own half light.
You call that radio?
Call that radio.
What about the people who hate it on me?
Right, and then I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute.
That's mad, isn't it?
Is this a Netflix thing?
It's actually a podcast.
What the fuck's a podcast?
You know, it's kind of like a radio show.
Oh, that radio.
Yeah.
Just popped in there. And is there a way we can do something like that?
I couldn't help it.
By injection inside or
Yeah, I think so because I think just paint in general because I think like my poems and my painting.
No, cut. All right, thank you very much. It's a Call That Radio. Hannah, I think you have to go.
I do. I've got to get my kids to bed. But it was lovely to be here, and I will see you next week, Jim. Okay, take care.
The long shift continues for Hannah.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right then. Bye.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Cheers. So, Jim, this is we've got Jim here. If you're just joining us, it's the Govanhill International Festival and Carnival beginning next week. Beginning tomorrow, all week long. And if you want more information about all the events, you go to govanhillbaths.com to download the programme. You've got more guests lined up. It's not over yet. Oh, sorry, I muted you. You've muted yourself. I thought it was me that muted you, but you've actually muted yourself. There we go.
Yeah, sorry, I had a bit of a cough going, so I thought I'd mute myself when Hannah was on. So that was a beautiful poem, though, the specials. It's one of my favourite poems. And you have
the phone ringing, the door going, it's not happening, Jim.
Anyway, so we've got a couple of guests.
Ask us on the door if we've got a spare set of headphones for you.
No, my mates went to the door to see who it is.
Ask whoever's at the door if they've got a spare set of earphones.
No, they don't have. wrong door anyway. Right, okay. We've got two more guests to come. We're running a bit late with them. One is Bruce Downey, who was he was the guy that founded Govanhill Theatre, and he's now a sort of local historian on Govanhill history. He's going to do a couple of history walks. And another one, I don't know if you want to do the Royal Rumble countdown for the other one, or...
Yeah, okay. We'll go. Are they both coming on at the same time?
Are they both here?
They're both here, aye. I think we're running a bit late. I think they've been waiting for ages.
Yeah, let's bring them in. Yeah,
we'll bring them on. Well, let's do the Royal Rumble countdown. Well, we've Bruce.
What I didn't mention, we can do that.
Oh yeah, because Bruce didn't get the Royal Rumble countdown. I'm really apologise for that, Bruce.
It's here.
But, how you doing, Bruce? Before we bring on the next guest, how are you? Is everything all right?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join us on You Call That Radio. Apologies for the lack of Royal Rumble countdown, but this could also be your countdown too, in a funny way. It's Simon. Hello, Simon. If you would just like to introduce yourself.
Simon Murphy, photographer.
Brilliant stuff. Did you do a video recently?
I did. Yeah, there was.
Yes, I recognise you.
Yeah, I look a little bit purple in this light, but it's the same one that was in the video. It is me.
Brilliant stuff. If anyone's not, just give a wee shout out to that video if people want to see it, because I think it was interesting.
I think I said, Mark.
If you watch it,
in fact, you know what? Just watch it. We could just watch it.
Why don't you watch it? I think I said
we could just watch it. Have you you sent it to me? Well, Simon, do you talk a little bit about it and I'll find it. So, Jim, you send it to me in a private message.
What's Simon and Bruce? Both of their events or projects at the Govanhill Festival are directly linked to Govanhill as a community. So we're an international festival. We're bringing people in, book festivals and other things, and showing films from all over the world. But part of what we do is rooted in the community, and that's, I think, it's good that both of them are on together. Bruce is, as I say, he founded Govanhill Theatre, which ran for like 6 years at Govanhill Bass, fantastic theatre company, and since then he's become a bit of a local Govanhill historian, and he wrote a book for Govanhill Bass last year called Loved and Lost, and he's dug more and more and more into it. He's found, there was an article he published today on the Govanhill CIC, Greater Govanhill CIC thing, about just the origins of Govanhill and things. So he's going to be doing a couple of history walks. And Simon, over the last few years, had this project of portraits of people in Govanhill and scenes of Govanhill, which has become more and more popular. It's been through a paper and things like that. And so we've got an exhibition of Simon's work on the streets, in shop windows, right through the community. Both of them are going to be on the streets of Govanhill, which is quite interesting, I thought.
Bright stuff, Jim. By the way, thankfully I've got a new computer coming, because did Simon, Bruce, did you hear Jim okay there?
I did, yes.
Yeah, this is really weird. So that's why I was interrupted Hannah at one point, because I thought that she was breaking up, but it's actually my computer, which is strange that it's still streaming you guys fine, but just my computer was streaming from. Is it me that's breaking up?
Yeah, how many shows have you done? How many shows have you done since the lockdown?
110. I think we've done 110. The computer's done in it. Needs a break, I think. Or it's maybe just my brain, Jim. Do you know, it could just be my brain that's just needing a wee break. Let's go to the video anyway. Let's go to the video, Simon. Okay.
Down in Govanhill, and I thought tonight I'd just put on a little pop-up exhibition. I've been photographing some of the young team around here, and I thought bring them down some prints, but we'll stick them up on the wall and got an exhibition. Perhaps I've not been to an exhibition before, not sure. So we'll see if anyone turns up. We've had some passers-by already. They've showed a bit of interest, laughing away. So we'll see if the rest turn up. They can take the pictures once it's done. It's a little bit windy around this side. Maybe I should have went to the other side. No, I really like the squares. That helps me a lot. You know these people?
Oh, we want a picture!
You know them?
We want a picture as well! Please! Take a picture!
I'll take it. I need to put all these up first, and then if you come back, I'll take your picture. You want to? You can see. I'm going to keep this up for about an hour. So after it, you can take it. That one, you just take it. No, after about an hour. It takes a long time to see pictures because this is done in an old-fashioned way. It's shot in film. I've got to process it and print it.
We do with this.
Yeah?
We do with this.
So well, you can see your pictures up. Right? If you lived in that street there, are you just in the first close with the one where I saw you with the fence? Is that where you live?
Yeah.
So I know where you live. I'll bring you a picture. Photographed him yesterday. He was insistent, but everybody thinks you can get the picture right away. Right away. I want to know.
Listen. When our man chopping like that, we chat like that, man. Look at that slap, my free boy driller. Trapping, and get me a bet about Bella. I can't take a picture right now.
That was yesterday.
Got a picture. Oh. Come on.
How do we educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century? How do we do that, given that we can't anticipate what the economy will look like at the end of next week? Every country on earth is trying to figure out how do we educate our children so they have a sense of cultural identity and so that we can pass on the cultural genes of our communities while being part of the process of globalization. How do we square that circle?
You call that radio?
Makes coherent sense.
As you call that radio, it's Jim. I muted you.
Muted myself again. I did that again. Because I was talking and the film was on and I didn't know where I ended with hearing me, so I muted myself.
I've got Simon, we've got Bruce, we've also got Felix is still here. Well done, Felix. You've been here the whole time.
Forgot you were there.
So could you just tell us a little bit more, Simon, about that? You're just bringing an exhibition to the streets of Govanhill, basically.
Yeah, so I've been shooting this project, Govanhill, for about 16 years, but I only really recently started going back to it about maybe 3 years ago, doing it quite intensively. And it was supposed to be exhibited in street level in July. Street level, Malcolm Dixon had seen the work, liked the work, and wanted to exhibit it. But what happened, and we couldn't do that. So it was actually Jim. We had a little meeting, and it felt so right to bring the work to the streets. It's something that I had been doing anyway, because exhibitions can be quite intimidating places. The little glasses of wine and just how do you stand when you're there? What do you say? And I'm photographing people that perhaps, not all, but perhaps will never go to an exhibition, and especially the young team that you saw in the little video there. So to take the exhibition to them is something that, for me, it was terrific to see the reactions, but also the community have reacted really well to that video. It was just something that my friend did. We went down. It was just an idea that night. Let's go down. We'll put the pictures up. But the community of Govanhill really responded well to it. And then we've got the next step, which is the exhibition for the carnival, which is slightly different because it's behind glass rather than just the wall. So we'll stay up a little bit longer, maybe. A couple more days, we'll see. But that's cool.
Whereabouts exactly would that be for people to check out that's maybe walking by?
So it's a bit of a photo trail. So part of the fun in it is discovering the images. So there's 20 images in 20 different locations in Govanhill. A lot of them are coffee shops, because if you put, for instance, there's a kind of home shop on Pollokshaws Road, really nice. And I thought I might ask, but then if you put a picture up, then people go in and want to buy it, and that can get irritating. So coffee shops, barbers, places like that. So you kind of got to discover them. Although there are little maps around the place, etc. You'll find them.
Yeah, I've noticed a couple already, Simon. I'm not giving anything away, but I came across 2 or 3.
Aye. So officially it starts tomorrow, Friday, the little exhibition. But we've had to put them up a little bit earlier, just so they're there for the start of it. So yeah, you'll discover them, you'll see them, and the idea. I produce a paper called Govanhill with these photographs, and it's always been free. So although it costs me money to make, the idea is I put them in coffee shops, record shops, and if you want one, you have to come into Govanhill to get one. So you need to experience the community. Maybe you'll contribute a little bit to the community. You'll buy a coffee, or even deeper than that, might change some perceptions. So the exhibition kind of flows on from that idea, whereas you've got to come in to Govanhill to see the images and experience it yourself.
So was this? Have you done this in previous years, or is this an idea that's maybe it wouldn't have happened were it not for the lockdown, having to think outside the box?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have happened in this way, because we had the big exhibition set up in town in the fancy gallery, which, you know, as a photographer, that's a dream. You know, that's what you work towards. But on reflection, I'm actually really glad that it's not on, because since then, this summer, the images that I've got now, I would have wanted to put in that exhibition. So I've got more material now. But also, there's something that just feels so right about bringing these portraits of people from Govanhill who live here, very diverse, very different types of people. But there's something that feels right about bringing the exhibition to the streets of Govanhill. So it feels brilliant.
It's also really quite interesting as well that, I mean, the best photography, I think, always stands the test of time. So as you go back and you look at this stuff, and you're actually going to have portraits of people from Govanhill in the year 2020, which I'm sure that people are going to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this summer, right, first phase of lockdown, I didn't do anything. I kind of obeyed the rules, and when we got a little bit more freedom, I threw myself into this, and I've just been photographing so many people. And I think you're right. Images tend to be, I feel anyway, especially documentary shots, tend to have more value as the years pass. So it's shop fronts that you see. And Bruce, I mean, you know everything about everything in Govanhill, but it's those images where you see shop fronts from years gone by, and documenting those changes, it means so much to people. Nostalgia, all of that adds value to the images. So,
well,
yeah,
I think
definitely.
it's a time to bring Bruce in anyway. Bruce, how is, obviously your historical walking tours, which sound really interesting. How are you going to do this in the new restrictions?
Well, it's limited to 6 people on this occasion, and it's going to be on Sunday afternoon, when hopefully it's going to be a little less busy. And we're going to take a walk around Govanhill. It's kind of treasure hunt, if you like. You know, we're going to sort of look at some of the most interesting buildings and places, and talk about what used to be there. I mean, we all get obsessed about the here and now, and we focus on plastic shop fronts, and but we don't stop to take a closer look, you know. But if you look around and above and behind, you know, these places, you know, you'll find something you didn't expect. You might find an older shop sign behind the new shop sign, but that's quite common in Govanhill. but there's some real surprises sometimes. There's like a hardware store that used to be a cinema, or flats where a roller skating rink used to be, or once upon a time, Barnum and Bailey's Greatest Show on Earth came to Govanhill, or Buffalo Bill brought his Wild West show to Govanhill as well. So
the Buffalo Bill thing, I didn't actually know about until a couple of years ago. I'd heard the phrase Buffalo Bill, and then quite an interesting Denison documentary was talking about Buffalo Bill. And
he came to Denison in 1894, I think, if I remember correctly. But he came back a second time in 1904 to Govanhill, and he played. He set up on Cathkin Park, not the Cathkin Park we know now, but the first one, the original one.
Where was the original one? I know Cathkin Park quite well.
The first one was
a few music videos in there and stuff. Sorry, I'm just going. This is just going to be. This is the rest of this was just going to be me asking stupid questions. But so where was the original Cathkin Park? Sorry, I will try not to ask too many stupid questions, but I like this stuff.
It was opposite Dixon Halls. It's where Boyd Street is now. It's all tenements now. It got demolished in 1903, but it was just across the road from Dixon Halls, and it's completely built over now.
And then when did Govanhill start? When?
Well, that's
when
a question. I'm always trying to answer that question, and always sort of revising it, because I keep finding new evidence of it further and further back in time. But the oldest map I have discovered that mentions Govanhill is from 1800, and I believe Govanhill grew up, emerged around the Govan Colliery, which was right on the corner of Calder Street and Cathcart Road. And Govanhill was just a little bit beyond that, near Hollybrook Street and Batson Street. There's a few cottages there. That was the beginning of Govanhill.
That, as far as we know right now.
Yes. But ask me again in 6 months' time, I might have a different answer.
Well, David, always fascinates me is, who names Govanhill? Where does the name come from? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming that it would be. Is it right to assume that it's off the back of which obviously Govan was its own thing?
Well,
so Govanhill be considered like close to Govan enough, or is it anything to do with that at all?
Well, all of the south side was part of the parish of Govan. Going back 700 years now. But there was a village called Little Govan, which sort of dissolved in the sort of late 18th century. But that really became part of the Gorbals. But Govanhill took its name from being the hill near Little Govan.
See, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
There you go. I got that one. I assumed that one reasonably right. Sorry, Jim, I've muted you again. You're probably trying to talk.
Yeah, Bruce is really interesting. I've been told loads of things about Govanhill that Bruce has found out. I just, sometimes you just accept it. That sounds like that makes sense, and then you tell it and you repeat it because you think that's history because it's the fact because I've been told it so often. And then Bruce does a bit of digging and find out it's complete shite, and tell people all the wrong things. For years, everyone thought that Dixon, the guy that kind of built, the guy that owned the colliery and built Dixon Halls and all that stuff, that the streets, Allison Street, Daisy Street, and it was Annette Street, were named after his daughters. And then until Bruce found out that I don't think he even had any daughters. It's complete nonsense. But everybody in Govanhill thinks that's the truth.
That's because you told them in the pub and you stated that it's fact, Jim. It's fake news. Fake news.
The best one on that was Daisy Street. I found a reference to that. Daisy Street was named after his dog.
All right, amazing. And wait, Bruce, so if people are wanting to go on one of these tours, is there still tickets available, or can people still do that?
It's still possible. I think this Sunday's booked up, but I think there's probably still space.
Jim's shaking his head. Jim.
Again. I don't know. It might have sold out, but I think Bruce is right. Maybe next Sunday or some, but I think it might have sold. It's really tight numbers because of the COVID thing.
But I have agreed.
Sorry, Bruce.
There is waiting lists for both tours anyway, and I've also agreed to do a tour, another one mid September. So we'll post more details about that soon.
Brilliant stuff. And have you had thought about maybe doing like an online walking tour?
Yes. There's going to be one coming out in September for Doors Open Day, a podcast, doing a very similar tour of Govanhill. I'd like to do it as a film as well at some point. You know, if I can convince a filmmaker to follow me around.
Simon's got a camera.
Well,
actually, Simon, you've got a guy called Paul. I don't know if you know him, but you might know him. He says, I think I've worked kinda with Simon through two of my friends, Andy and Roddy, in the hellish business of wedding photography.
So yeah, Andy and Roddy are brilliant wedding photographers. I'm not a wedding photographer. So I've helped out a couple of times, but really that is a specialist skill. Some of the hardest working photographers I know are wedding photographers.
Well, I've been trying to sort out I'm getting a new setup for this show, and I'm going to get a good camera because I do a bit of music video editing in a very sort of basic level. And a good friend of mine, an amazing photographer, Martin Windybank, did try and say that I should go for the more expensive one so that I could do stuff like wedding photography. But it doesn't really interest me, man. It seems like a lot of work.
It's a hard shift. The day itself, I love weddings. I'm the kind of guy who, it doesn't matter how many speeches I've heard, you know, I'll cry at them, I love them. But see, editing having to look at wedding pictures for days on end on a computer screen, oh dear. So no, I couldn't do it myself.
It's a lot of work, and there's also a lot of expectation. From people that don't actually know a lot about photography usually. So they're can you not get that photo that doesn't exist anymore? But just a photo in their mind that they remember. Alan says, your knowledge of Govanhill amazes me, Bruce. I never bought tickets for the tours. Online walking tour would probably suit me instead. Yeah, I'd love to hear the podcast, or if you can sort out a visual thing as well, because it's really interesting. Maybe when the restrictions are lessened, we can maybe get a bigger one. Yeah, it's with that Simon. So you both of your things are actually out inside the real world. Will there be maybe an online exhibition of your photos for people to tune in online, Simon, if people maybe can't make it to Govanhill over the week?
Yeah, so that's a good point, actually. It's something I've never really thought too much about. But Document Scotland, so there's a website, Document Scotland, that have ran a piece on it, and they have maybe about 10 or 12 of the images of the 20. And there's also a video attached there, which gives a little bit of insight into the project, why I do it, why I think it's important. So Document Scotland website, if you check that out, you'll see it on there.
And when's that going to be on there?
Oh, it's on now. I think it went up yesterday. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's in Document Scotland. Felix, you since I think maybe we've been on for 2 hours 10 minutes, and you've been here I think most of it. So there'll be definitely new people that have tuned in. Obviously, you work with a fantastic charity, Music Broth. Could just one more time briefly, what is Music Broth's involvement in this festival, and how can people get involved and see what it is you're doing?
Yeah, no probs. So we're involved in the Govanhill Street Music Festival, which is an opportunity for local musicians, performers to play in Govanhill at various locations, from their window, closed doors, and locations like outside cafes and like up in parks. So there's up to 30 musicians that we're engaging with, and we're trying to make it as diverse as possible. So we've got performances from like this, people from the Somalia network. We have a Santur player and we have young musicians. So it's going to be quite eclectic mix. And all the musicians are getting a payment for their performance. Govanhill Bass were involved, Anglo Bass were involved, as well as Music Rock. We're helping with supplying equipment and tech support. We're also, I didn't mention this, but on Saturday, the 22nd, we're actually providing tech support for an open air film screening in Westmoreland Street Gardens, which is being run by Gamis, who can oversee the Govanhill Picture House. So it's a film screening of La Belle et la Bête by Jean Cocteau. It's a movie from 1946. Starts at 8:30. It's a free event. Hopefully the weather's okay for it. But yeah, I think, yeah, and also just listening to Bruce, it was really interesting him to say about Hollybrook Street. You know, the start of Govanhill, like Music Groff's actually based on Hollybrook Street, up on the top of the hill, right next to Dentures, denture makers. So yeah, it's great to hear that history of the place that we're based in.
Absolutely brilliant. It's been fascinating listening to all of you this evening, and well done for still creating something magical in these weird times, because people need the entertainment more than ever. So and for anyone who's just been is interested in it, it obviously applies if you can get to Govanhill. There's things happening, and if you can't get to Govanhill, then you can still enjoy most of these things online at govanhillbaths.com. There's a program that you can download. Jim, have you got any final words to say?
I was going to mention La Belle, is it La Belle et la Bête? What's it called again? The screen. That's going to be fantastic. It's in Westmoreland Gardens, which is the Gap site that people used to know as the Cladda Club, the Irish club. And Bruce will probably know it as Hampden Cinema, because it used to be a cinema. It get knocked down or bummed down or something. I think about 20 years ago or something. And it's been developed, landscaped into a wee garden, because the guy that owns it's sort of buggered off and not done anything with the Gap site. And so we're just sort of taking that over, screening this great old movie and having a little social distance kind of party in the gardens. There's a whole lot of other things as well I just want to briefly mention. In terms of photography, as well as Simon, Govanhill Youth Club and Community Renewal, we're doing a project right through lockdown with young kids taking pictures, which are going to be on a sort of picture trail hung, small pics hung together as a sort of montage thing right around the community. And we always, Govanhill Bass got a long relationship with a Palestine network of Palestine photographers, who are photojournalists from Palestine, and photographers, press photographers from this country who help get them their work exposure over here. We've had an ongoing several exhibitions over the years, and they've got 2 or 3 online exhibitions. Again, they're in the programme. They're worth looking at, all free. You can go see them as well. And continue with the anti-racism theme on Monday, the Glasgow Zine Library, which is based in Cathcart Road in Govanhill, they're doing a community building and anti-racism sort of workshop about how to create your own zine and things like that stuff. So there's loads of stuff in there. If you can't take part in the stuff you hear about tonight, there's other things you can get involved in, and stuff on around at the deep end, some other banner exhibitions and things. So come along, come down to Govanhill. I'm sure most of you do already. And well, come when the stuff's on the street. I would say Sunday the 30th sounds like an absolute belter just to be hanging around Govanhill. If you've got Bruce doing the walk, you've got Simon's photography there, you've got the street music festival, and you've got all the lovely coffee shops and all that in Govanhill, so why wouldn't you?
Brilliant stuff. I might even see you there on Sunday as well. Because Sunday's a day off, a day of resting, you call that radio, because on the Saturday we've got this. Callum Ingram, Bomb Scare, Colonel Mustard, the Twistettes and Gyro Babies doing a live stream from the Capture Works, all day live visual experience in real time. So tune into that. You can get that on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/you call that radio, and we'll probably be on Facebook and Twitch as well. We're not 100% sure on that. Tomorrow night we've got Dean Wallace, former Aberdeen player, fitness guru, and runs a great podcast as well. And then Monday and Wednesday we've got Becky Wallace doing That's What She Said, which is she's going to take over as Becky Wallace is hosting it and speaking to countless promoters, musicians, singers, and people involved in the Scottish music industry, talking about the female perspective of it all. And is anyone else getting anything else they need to plug quickly?
Yeah, Matt, I was hoping I'd send you a link to a video.
Always one more for you, Jim.
Yeah. I'd sent you a link to a video earlier for Love Music, Hate Racism. They put together a compilation album that are crowdfunding to GoFundMe for people to buy in advance.
I've got it here, man. Yeah.
And so it'd be great if you could end with that. And if anyone's interested in it, you can find them in. You'll find if you Google Love Music, Hate Racism Glasgow, you'll find their GoFundMe page for it. It might even be in the trailer. The details.
Brilliant stuff.
Okay, thanks Simon and Bruce and Felix especially for hanging around so long, and Hannah and Tony. Thanks for coming along promoting the festival. Even though it's not going to be as big as next year. It's great that it keeps going, and I think it's still a brilliant program.
Great to be involved.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you. Brilliant.
Thanks. Good fun.
Thank you to everyone who's tuned in or appeared in the show tonight. Sorry if I had a wee bit of technical issues. I thought it was everyone else's internet that was broken, but it was mine. I've just went onto Facebook, and Facebook's decided to change Facebook. So sorry, we'll get through it. But look at this. Have any seen this? The new Facebook. It's like this. You know, it's dark. So I think it works. Hopefully the same buttons work. Thank you very much, and good luck with the festival.
Have you ever felt this way? They don't seem to understand you are kind of a stranger. On that very first day, you looked at their faces and tried. Hard to remember, has to be unreal. Hey, yeah, yeah. It has to be unreal. Hey, yeah, yeah. Where are you going? Well, for me,
Cause when the Reaper comes on me, he's gonna kiss me on the feet. I said, wear your own skin, grieve over nothing, cause the beat don't stop till they put you in the coffin. I said, wear your own skin, grieve over nothing, cause the beat don't stop, the beat don't stop. Big O, wear your own skin, grieve over nothing, cause the beat don't stop till they...
I got you. Ready? Yeah, he's 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yo, this is Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5 live and direct here in Glasgow, Scotland, and you call that radio?
Upon you, we are here to tell the people that we hear you. One God will not allow us as people of conscience to lose our morale. We see the crimes of this government.